The police Raptor squad has been disrupting bikies, pulling over members of the Hells Angels on roads into Canberra ahead of their national run over the weekend.
Rebels, outlaws, misfits, criminals? Whichever label they claim, there is no denying that the Hells Angels is the most disreputable bike gang in history. There has been widespread murder, riots, drug trafficking, extortion, and assaults. And yet, the inner workings of the leather-clad club have always been closely guarded. All this is crazy, but one question that arises every time: how did this global bikie empire manage to sink its roots so deep into Australian soil? From the streets of Sydney to the deserts of Perth, we'll take you on a journey into the heart of the Hells Angels Australian headquarters and expose the secrets behind their thrilling rise to power. Let's start the ride from their entrance. The small steps towards expansion.
No snitches, junkies, cops or ex-cops. For the first time in 75 years of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, the official world rules of the club have been released by a South Australian court.
A perfect holiday destination, elegant beaches, hot chicks, and a peaceful, chill place under threat. This warning should have been nailed when the Hells Angels entered Australia first, in 1975, initially establishing chapters in Melbourne and Sydney, and now have approximately 250 members and 14 chapters in the country. The club's activities in Australia have traditionally included drug trafficking, prostitution, armed robbery, arms trafficking, fencing stolen goods, and murder for hire. Still, they have recently moved into lawful businesses such as gyms, tattoo parlors, haulage companies, and the security industry. Police allege the Hells Angels use mainstream industries to launder existing funds and to exploit new income streams, using the strategies they developed during a series of gang wars to intimidate business competitors. Hells Angels in action: handshakes and handbrakes.
According to their own rulebook, they do not condone any unlawful or illegal activity, despite arrests for shootings, drug trades, and unlawful gathering.
The Australian Hells Angels have aligned themselves with the Coffin Cheaters, Immortal, Red Devils, Satan's Soldiers, Vikings, and the Prisoners of War, a prison gang operating inside HMP Barwon, while they have been involved in conflicts with the Bandidos, Comancheros, Diablos, Finks, Nomads, and Notorious. The first conflict was with the Rebels, after the Hells Angels demanded that the Rebels change their colors from red and white, the same color as the Hells Angels. The conflict ended with the Rebels beating a Hells Angels chapter president in his house with a baby's pram. In 2006, Canadian journalists Julian Shearer and William Marsden wrote, "The Hells Angels remain the most powerful bikie gang in the country, even though they have fewer members than other gangs such as the Rebels or the Gypsy Jokers." Bloody clashes and infamous crimes.
Everything changed on Father's Day in 1984, the Milpera massacre.
Violent confrontation has left 7 people dead in the raging gun battle between rival bike gangs, the Comancheros and the Bandidos.
Australia's outlaw bikie history is stained with Hells Angels-led violence. One of the most infamous episodes was the 1984 Milpera massacre, a deadly shootout between the Comancheros and Bandidos that left 7 people dead, including a 14-year-old girl. Although the Hells Angels were not directly involved, the incident shaped the country's OMCG landscape, and they capitalized on the ensuing power struggles to strengthen their foothold. Another brutal chapter in their history unfolded in 2009 at Sydney Airport, where Hells Angels members clashed violently with Comancheros in a riot that ended with a Comanchero associate beaten to death in front of horrified passengers. The attack was a brutal reminder that the Hells Angels brand of gang warfare was far from over. In the aftermath of the attack, several Hells Angels members were arrested and charged. But the incident also marked a substantial rise in the club's influence and reputation. Statements recorded by police during the investigation revealed a culture of threats and violence within the Hells Angels, with members showing off their involvement in the attack. Despite the negative publicity, the Hells Angels leadership saw an opportunity to solidify power and promote their ranks. The club's national president at the time, Derek Wainohu, reportedly masterminded the attack, and his involvement helped to strengthen his position as one of the most powerful figures in the Australian bikie scene. As the Hells Angels continued to expand their operations and recruit new members, their reputation as a ruthless and feared organization only grew stronger. It's showtime, undercover operations, and police crackdowns.
Elite police squads are ramping up the war on organised crime bosses, raiding headquarters, busting down doors and locking up foot soldiers.
Law enforcement agencies have long hunted to tear down the Hells Angels' grip on Australia. Undercover operations, mass arrests, and tough anti-bikie laws have attempted to restrict their influence, but the gang has proven to be highly resilient. In 2012, police launched Operation Atero, a multi-agency task force aimed at dismantling their operations. Numerous arrests were made, and significant drug shipments were seized. Yet the club remained a dominant force. The Hells Angels adapted to these crackdowns with an increased focus on secrecy and coded communications, making it more difficult for authorities to track their movements. They have also leveraged legal challenges to fight the growing use of anti-bikie laws, arguing that such legislation offends their civil rights. Lawbreakers talking about rights. Isn't it weird? It's surprising to hear the Hells Angels talk about their rights when they have broken so many laws. They have a history of violence and hurting people, so it's hard to take their complaints seriously. The police and the public are not fooled by their attempts to make themselves look like victims. The battle between the Hells Angels and the authorities will likely continue for a long time. The modern-day Hells Angels in Australia.
We've seized over 60 firearms, money, vehicles.
Gangs have now met their match, the Victoria Police Viper Task Force.
Despite decades of crackdowns, the Hells Angels remain a powerhouse in Australia's underworld. Their criminal empire continues to thrive, with newer generations of bikers joining the ranks, eager to prove their loyalty through violent beginnings and illegal dealings. Today, the Hells Angels operate with a mix of old-school brutality and modern business strategies. Their social media presence, often monitored by law enforcement, helps them recruit members, spread propaganda, and even taunt rival gangs. The club also maintains ties with international unions, ensuring a steady flow of drugs, weapons, and unauthorized cash across borders. The legacy of the Hells Angels.
They're dangerous. They plan things systematically and organise with their network. If we ignore them, they can create violent situations.
The Hells Angels' rise in Australia is a declaration of their adaptability and ruthlessness. What began as a small bikie chapter in the 1970s evolved into one of the most feared and respected criminal organizations in the country. Their history is filled with bloodshed, power struggles, and fearless criminal enterprises, cementing their status as an outlaw empire. While police continue their relentless pursuit, the Hells Angels show no signs of disappearing. They remain installed in Australia's criminal underworld, their legacy written in both roaring engines and the echoes of violent encounters. The open road is still theirs to rule, and the empire they built on fear, drugs, and power is far from fading into the sunset. The Hells Angels' expansion into Australia, from humble beginnings in the 1970s to their current dominant status, is a testament to their cleverness, adaptability, and ruthlessness. Despite numerous crackdowns, they remain a powerful and feared organization with a reputation for violence and intimidation. Their legacy as an outlaw empire is cemented, and their influence will likely be felt for generations to come. Want to dive deeper into their shocking tale? Share your thoughts, like, and subscribe for more thrilling stories and documentaries.